Got a fun project coming up. A buddy of mine gave me his horrible hatchet. And we're gonna make this thing better. We're gonna make a sheath. We're gonna do a Toronto Raptors design on that. Do some handle work, clean up this blade, because right now I don't even think that it can chop wood. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make a template, and the best thing for templates is cereal boxes. So now with the template design, I'm gonna pop this into Illustrator and completely custom make a basketball logo that's not stolen from the internet. Not stolen. And as Uncle Joey would say, cut it out. Yeah, that happened. So we're going to cut out our leather, wet it down, and then we can trace our design onto it. I like to shade in the back, kind of makes that tracing come through a little bit better. Now we're going to move on to the swivel knife and carving in our design. With the carving done, we're going to move on to tooling. I'm just going to add some bevels all the way around and give this piece some depth. And when that's all finished, guess what? You got to do it all over again to make a second piece. So now, we're gonna make this look good. This isn't an axe, it's an atrocity. And with most wooden atrocities, you can fix it by sanding. See? Sanding fixes all. And with metal atrocities, you're gonna do some grinding, and then some sanding, until the entire thing is nice and shiny. Now the thing you can't fix with sanding is cracking, but that's why you have epoxy. So we're going to mix that up, fill in the cracks, and wait for it to dry. But we don't have all day just to sit around, we do have a sheath to make. And to finish that up, we need to do some cutting, some drawing, some cutting, some stacking, some more stacking, and then some gluing. Ooh, glue's sticky. Sticky. Man, this guy likes gluing. So with our gluing done, we're going to trace out our axe shape and cut that out, and we'll get back to this later. Don't worry, we'll come back to it later. Just trust me. So back in the shop, we can clean up that epoxy and apply some stain. Now we move on to the most terrifying part of this entire build. Painting on red dye. This is a slow process, so I took my time in order to not make a mistake. Now it was time for beveling and painting on black dye. Now with that daunting task done, we're going to let that dry and focus on finishing our handle. So we're just going to use a Minwax wipe-on poly. I think I did 4 or 5 coats of this. It doesn't take a lot of time to put on. Now we wait. But there's a lot of waiting between coats. Hey slacker, stop sitting around and get back to work. Next thing we're going to do is put on some antique gel and give that a buff. Then we can work on our final assembly. See? Told you we'd come back to this piece. Oh, you dolt, you got glue all over your hand. You should wear gloves. See? Gloves. Look at all of this. So much work. Now we're going to put on some Resolene finish. Did about 4 coats, I think, total of this. Just going to wipe it on, buff it off, and it makes a nice, shiny top coat. See? Shiny. Ooh, shiny. Now we're going to lay out for our stitches. We're just going to mark a line with our dividers, mark our holes, and drill it out. With those all drilled, we're going to burnish and polish our edges, make it all shiny, shiny. Look at that. Shiny. And then on to stitching. Some red thread to take this much. Probably way more than I need, but that's better than the alternative. So we're just going to do a simple saddle stitch for this all the way down. Nice and easy. Now we're just going to loop this a couple of times, tighten it down, snip off those ends, and the stitching is done. So here's a problem. So I came down finally to fit this sheath, which I didn't do before. What? And I should have done before. Yeah, you should have. And we're off. Ugh. Just a little bit. That's a lot bit. Just enough. Dude. That it makes me sad. You should be sad. So, marked out just a little bit on the blade. We're just gonna grind this down. And you're gonna try and hide your crime. Took off not that much, just right up to our tape line. And... Well. That. You're gonna get away with this, aren't you? That is nice. That is better. And you're just gonna sand it, grind it, and make it look like it never happened. Next we're gonna make some straps. Yes, I use the axe as a hammer. What are you gonna do? Sue me? Don't sue me. And we're gonna finish up by adding a little strap underneath our back strap, just to hold the axe a little tighter in the sheath. Look at that. Nice and snug. And that red stitching to match. It's almost like it was planned. Now the last element is going to be a handle wrap. So we're going to lay out a tape template, cut that to size, give it a test fit, and give it a bath. Poke, 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 poke. Now we're going to massage and form our leather into place. We're going to wrap it up in a towel for a couple of hours. And look, it has a shape. Now we're going to set this aside and let it dry overnight. Now we're back to beveling, marking, punching some holes, dyeing, finishing, And on to the fun part. So for stitching the handle, I'm going to run through it pretty quick here, but I did make a full stitching video on just stitching this handle. So I'll leave a link for that at the end of this video. So with that, our handle wrap is done. It's just nice and clean and simple. Our axe sheath is done. And the only thing left to do is sharpen this blade because it is dull. Well, and just like that, we're done with this build. Thanks for sticking around. Catch you next time. We done? No? Come on. There it is. Oh wait. Yep, keep going. It's fine.